I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Greet your neighbors. All right, today's invocation will be offered by Don Noble.
Let us pray. Great Creator of all that is good and just in the universe, we give thanks for today and our fellowship today, this day together. Grant each the wisdom to live the Rotary four-way test in our daily lives by helping us to always seek the truth, to be fair in each and every situation, build goodwill and better our friendships, and that all of us be beneficial to all. We give thanks for the meals served here today. Be with us, each of us, as we serve others before serving ourselves. Amen.
All right, welcome everyone. All right, so we're a little behind today. So if you guys can help out Josie and Chris by, there's some money in this little slip still on the table. If you guys can collect them up real quick and hand them out to them. Chris is going down this way, Josie's going down this way. Thank you. Wonderful. All right. So today is National Nurses Day. So back in 1982, President Ronald Reagan signed a proclamation to recognize him on May 6th as National Recognition Nurses Day. So this is actually the first day of Nurses, National Nurses Week. So if you have a nurse in your life, make sure you recognize them, or if you work with some nurses, yay! Like, stand up, let's give her a round of applause. So thank you for all that you do and all the other nurses in our world. All right, so Past President Kim, filling in for Secretary for us.
Okay, Matt Martin has our visiting or our traveling microphone today. And we'll start with Rob Wells, who has a guest.
I guess today is a two-sided one. The director of Hockey at Josie.
And up here, Susan Baker. Sarah Baker, I'm sorry.
It's not the first time. My guest today is Gage Ryder. He's an attorney close to litigation and expertise.
And our exchange students will share some updates with us.
Last week, the week, I would describe it as a baseball week. Sol ID was basically baseball, related to baseball. So Mr. Novel took us, me and Eric, to a baseball game to the Guardians versus the Angels. The Guardians won 7-1. 3 home runs, a grand slam. And it was like a little back. And the next day, I went to Mavericks, that's like my house brother, baseball game. It was like the whole afternoon in the baseball campus. That's all.
I went to baseball game. It was a good game. Yeah. My brother played baseball for a long time, and I'm so baseball friend, so I'm so enjoying it. And this month, I will go Cincinnati and teach Shohei company from Wooster Rotary, which is baseball, Japanese baseball of the year. I'm really fond of him, so I'm so excited. I also go to his baseball game in June with my siblings in California, Los Angeles. So I'm so excited. I will buy many books of him.
Thank you, Matt. Frank Rayleigh has guests to introduce.
My guests today are Reverend Enico Ferenci, if you'll stand up, please. Dr. Thomas Graves, his wife Catherine Graves, my wife Candy, and Bill Weiss. And then my cohort in crime today is Josie Drushal, and I'll spend a couple seconds introducing her. Is that right? Josie spent 32 years in education. First 21 years were in the Worcester City Schools as a teacher at Melrose and Edgewood, then as the technology coordinator for the district. The next 11 years were spent working as a director of professional development at Three Rivers Educational Computer Association in Marion, Ohio. After retirement from education in 2009, she has enjoyed a variety of activities, including being the program director of Dreams on Horseback, a therapeutic right. Josie lives with her husband, Rich, on their farm in Holmes County, loves the outdoors, traveling and visiting her children and grandchildren in Denver, Colorado, and San Jose, California. In addition to that, Josie has been a member of Westminster since 1977 and has served as clerk of session for 15 years.
We also have a visiting Rotarian who was with us here in Worcester before, Jim Miller, who has an announcement to make. While he's making his way, President Courtney has some guests to introduce.
Yes, I have two guests. I have Bryce Ireland and Tyler Corbett. They're from the American Family Agency here in Worcester, Ohio.
It's great to be back at Worcester and especially here at Rotary. I'm actually representing today the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. I was past president just 2 years ago, and today announcing our raffle. Each of you have cards on the table. The raffle is for a trip anywhere in the world. And tickets, as it indicates, one for 50, you get 3 tickets for 1,000, for 100, and 10 tickets for 250. The limit is 3,000. I will say that we'll probably, given that it's only got 2 weeks left, we'll only get to about 1,500 tickets to go. So the odds are good. I encourage you to use the barcode, and it is a major fundraiser for us, especially our international projects. We are in 3 different countries, China, Venezuela, and the Dominican Republic. And then along with that are scholarships for students. Our scholarships are actually full-ride scholarships to Columbus Tech in terms of tuition given to both Dublin and Worth students. So please consider it, and it's been great seeing many familiar faces. I wish I had a lot more time to spend with you because it's good to be back. Thank you.
Hey, welcome to all of our guests. We hope you enjoy our program. And today, well, I guess you guys can just get started, right? Frank kind of already introduced our speaker, so I guess you guys can take it over.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Today, we are celebrating 150th anniversary of Westminster Presbyterian Church on the campus of College of Worcester. So we're tag teaming this, and I will spend a little bit of time on a brief history of where the church has been located. We've been moved around a few times on the campus. And then Josie is going to spend a little time on talking about something we're doing to reduce medical debt. So with that, the University of Worcester, not the College of Worcester, but the University of Worcester was founded by the Ohio Synod back in 1866. And it opened up as the university on September 8th, 1870, with 5 faculty, 30 men, and 4 women students. And during that very first week, students organized what was called the Brainerd Missionary Society with 28 of the 34 students starting Sunday school classes in some of the downtown areas of Worcester and the neighboring and adjacent counties. It's called Brainerd because David Brainerd was a missionary back in the Massachusetts area in the 1740s, I think. Westminster got established itself on May 10th, 1874, 150 years ago. 32 students were received by letter of transfer, 4 by confession of faith, and within a month, membership had grown to 88 students. There were 2 college presidents that acted as preachers for the first almost decade, but not pastors. Then finally in 1889, Dr. T.F. Davis was selected as its first minister and did all the ministering duties as well. The college initially started with one big building, 6 stories tall. It was the main building. Old Main is what it was, people refer to it nowadays. It's Caw Hall. And on December 11th, the thing burnt to the ground. There was an explosion at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it just absolutely burnt to the ground. Now, in the Caw Hall, there was a big 2-story assembly room, and that was used for a chapel. And there was no organ, but there were just some seats, and I think somebody brought a piano in. So then that happened in 1901. So in 1902, the members of the church and also the trustees were very fortunate because about a year and a half before that, they acquired some land that was adjacent to Caw. And so that land then had already been assigned to building a chapel. So the new chapel was called Memorial Chapel. And it was built or dedicated in March of 1902. Attendance for chapel services were mandatory in those days. So you can imagine going to chapel every single day. The university closed down the existing graduate programs 10 years after that, in 1915, and the school was renamed to the College of Worcester as we know it now. The building that took care of all the administrative work for all the religious programs at the school was called the Westminster Church House, and it was built back in 1965. And we had all sorts of things going through there when we're talking about scout programs and Sunday school programs and trips out and mission work. Everything kind of went through that particular building. Part of that building is a large facility called Mackey Hall. Mackey Hall is where we actually go ahead and have our services. Currently, we meet there every Sunday. And if you're interested, you go on the website and see what we do every single week. Magaw Chapel was then built, and it took a while to build it because there was a lot of controversy about the design and how it was being built, et cetera, et cetera. But it was dedicated back in October of 1971. And as I understand it, that building was supposed to be about another 18 feet in the ground. and that never quite made it that far. From Rotary, we've had several presidents of the club that were members of our church. As you can see there, Dan Parmalee, Jay Graber Drushal, Garber, excuse me, Victor Nix, Paul Kerr, Al Van Wee, Jay Douglas Grusher over here, Drushal, Peggy Schmitz, and I listed her in red because she was our very first female president, and Greg Barbu and Bobby Douglas. Now, over the years, as you know, we give Paul Harris Fellows, and we give them both to members of the club, and we also give them to non-members of the club. And here are 3 non-members of the club that receive Paul Harris Fellows. The first one is Dr. Graves, who's with us here today, and he got a Paul Harris Fellow because of a lot of work that he did for volunteer work he did for Viola Stars in the Clinic. And as I understand it, he and several of the retired College of Wooster professors all got together as a group. And instead of just going out for coffee or whatever, they would show up each night or something and pull out the trash and do all sorts of things. And I guess they were probably the highest unpaid trash people and the smartest unpaid trash people in the entire community. He also took care of and did a lot of work in making sure that all the prescription medicines were properly cataloged and put away in a safe place. Ruth McKenzie, when she accepted her award, she was 93 years old. And if you know anything about Ruth, first thing you'll probably think about her is that she had this aqua-colored, it was really an aqua-colored Dodge Dart, and it was the only one in town. And you could see it all over town because she was doing nothing but driving people around, delivering flowers, visiting the shut-ins. You know, she was a cabbie sometimes, depending on what needed to be done. And they finally decided to take her driver's license away when she was 93. So, excellent lady. And finally, we had Elaine Snyder. Elaine worked very hard on the immigration services and border links. A lot of our members went on mission trips out to border links and helped out with the issues that were occurring on the border at the time. Unfortunately, Elaine got her Paul Harris Fellow, and about maybe 3 to 4 weeks after that passed away of some terminal cancer. We also have 2 really terrific people, and we have a peace pole. It's our very first peace pole that's mounted right in front of the building, and it says, "May there be peace prevail," in 4 different languages, and it was dedicated to Lee Culp and Bill Yamasaki, both members of this club, both 40+ year members of this club. And it's really gratifying to see what happened with those 2 people, because here you have to picture, here's Lee, all right, who was a Marine veteran. He fought at Guadalcanal, which was the bloodiest of the Japanese islands in terms of the battle that went there. Okinawa received the silver and the bronze star for his service. Of course, he was a secretary, for 35 years of this club. I don't think he'll ever be broken. And I think most of you know him possibly as the originator of the College of Wooster Tootsie Roll tradition. So here's Lee and his cohort, both in terms of the club and also at church, because they were the head ushers for our church for probably a little over 30 years. Bill was born in 1917 in San Francisco, so he was a United States citizen. He earned his BS and MS at the University of California, Berkeley, and his PhD at OSU. His family was sent to an internment camp in Topaz, Utah. So you saw these 2 people at opposite ends of the spectrum, one fighting the other okay, or the nationality of the other. And the other one being interred by our own people to kind of make sure they wouldn't get hurt. I guess that's what they did. And he spent a lot of time over at the OARDC and got his PhD at OSU. So if you get to see that poll, just take a look at the names on the poll. There's about 2 more people there, but they're not Rotarians. Now I'm gonna let Josie take over and talk about something that's near and dear to us and has to do with our commitment to the community.
Thank you, Frank, for inviting me to join you and the opportunity to share information about Westminster's 150th anniversary celebration. Yesterday, we had a wonderful church service and then a banquet following that with many members coming back. And it was such a special, delightful way to kick off a celebration that continues. I had the honor of being on the planning committee for our celebration. And that happened when before that, last fall, my husband Rich and I were at home. And I remember very clearly him sharing with me an article that he had just read. The article was from the newsletter, This Is True, newsletter by Randy Cassingham. It has been around since 1994. And in that article, the article was describing something called RIP medical debt, and that's the program that they sponsored. It really was a very, it caught our attention immediately. So we talked about maybe we should donate at that point. So that was on November 19th. Fast forward to Sunday, December 3rd. After church on that Sunday, those interested in helping with the planning of Westminster's 150th anniversary gathered together to begin work on preparing for what we defined was going to be our May celebration. Rich and I chose to participate in that initial meeting. And during that discussion, the statement was made that it would be wonderful to have a project as part of our anniversary commemoration that commemorates the occasion, but also to help the wider community. So Rich and I quickly looked at each other and I punched him in the ribs and said, tell them about this, which he did. And after sharing what RIP medical debt does, the decision was made that that would be Westminster's project in honor of our 150th. Now, I don't know whether it's providential or not, but actually that morning at church, our pastor, the Reverend Dr. Enika Ferenzi, had just preached a sermon on the mustard seed parable from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, verses 30 to 32. And it goes like this: how shall we compare the kingdom of God? It is like a mustard seed, the smallest of all the seeds on earth. When sown, it rises up and becomes the greatest of all vegetables. This was the inspiration for naming our campaign to celebrate Westminster's 150th. So we began to research what this really meant now that we said, yes, we'll do it. And as we did so, working with the organization, we learned that there were certain parameters that we needed to follow. First of all, to run a campaign through them, it may only last 4 months. That's it. You can't go shorter, you can't go longer. It's 4 months' time. We could define those 4 months, but that was our limit. The second parameter that we didn't know about originally was that there was a minimum amount that could be set as a goal, and that minimum amount was $10,000. That sounded pretty aggressive, but we felt so strongly that this is the direction we wanted to go that we said, yep, that's what we'll do. $10,000, 4 months, we'll see what happens. The other piece was we could define the area of support where the people that our monies would go to support, we could define that area. So what we did is we said, okay, let's start with Wayne County. We really want to focus on the medical debt issue in Wayne County. And if we're lucky enough, we would like to add the contiguous counties with it. So we added Ashland, Holmes, Medina, Stark, and Summit counties as well. And so went back to RIP, they said, great, this will work. We have that, we have the fund, the debt in hand that you can raise monies for to support that. I have to say that working with RIP Medical Debt has been a joy. They have been extremely responsive to all of our questions, desires, nitpicking, trying to figure out what was doing right. It turns out, however, that RIP Medical Debt went through a major rebranding a month ago. When I saw that come through, I thought, oh my gosh, now what do we do? Do we have to change everything? They assured us, no, everything will continue as it is. It is now called Undue, D-U-E, Medical Debt. So some reasons we went this direction. The reality is that every day, 1 in 2 Americans choose between paying medical debt bills and covering basic needs. Nearly 50% of U.S. adults delayed or skipped medical care due to the high cost. 50% of U.S. adults would not be able to afford an unexpected $500 bill. 2/3 of bankruptcies cite medical debt as a leading cause. At this point, through undue medical debt, every $10 that is donated relieves $1,000 on average of medical debt for families in financial need. $10 eliminates $1,000 of medical debt. Now this, you're thinking, that's crazy, but the way they do it is, this is possible because undue medical debt uses donations to buy debt in large bundled portfolios. And they pinpoint the debt of those most in need. By that, I mean, when contribution is made, Undue uses data analytics to pinpoint the debt of those most in need households that earn less than 4 times the federal poverty level, which varies by county and family size, or whose debts are 5% or more of annual income. Since 2014, almost $12 billion has been raised to provide medical debt relief to 7.45 million people in the United States. So with the decision to move forward, we began to share our campaign with the community, and the response has been incredible. Frank Relly was put in charge of putting together an extensive communication campaign, using media sources, sharing information with local organizations and churches. Our campaign began February 1, and we met our initial $10,000 in less than 5 weeks of contributions. So then on March 22nd, Westminster Session, which is our governing body of the church, said, hey, let's set a new goal. 10,000, we've already done it, and we still have 2.5, almost 3 months to go. So they set the new goal of $20,000, something we only dreamed was maybe an option early on. And at that time, we decided that the campaign itself would be turned off on Monday, June 3rd. So we now have March 22nd to June 2nd to complete it. Right now, the most recent estimate for the best amount needed to cover all acquired medical debt in Wayne and the 5 surrounding counties, they need $17,500. Now, this amount could increase between now and June 3rd if they acquire additional debt portfolios. As we, all the monies raised, will be beyond that 17,500 or what is available in our 5 county area, will remain in Ohio, but it'll be up to undue medical debt to decide where the additional funds go. So they don't cap us at the 20,000. They say the more, we will still be supporting our fellow Ohioans where the need is most. So as I said, our campaign ends on the morning of June 3rd. We are going to have our final celebration at church on Sunday, June 2nd. After that is concluded, undue medical debt will provide us with a detailed report, which will tell us how much debt was abolished in each of the individual counties by county. And then approximately 2 to 3 weeks after they do all of their, accounting, they will start sending letters to the people who are the recipients of our donations. Those letters will identify Westminster as the people who provided that support, but we will not get an individual accounting of who those people are or what they, were provided. And so it's a way for them to decide whether if they want to reach back to us, that's fine, but that privacy is very, very important. So the good news is, as of 2 hours ago, I didn't check it while I was eating. To date, we have raised $18,907.60, which is 94% of our 20,000 goal. And we think that's pretty darn exciting with a month to go, so. I have put on the screen, there's a barcode and the URL. If you would like to go ahead and learn more about our mustard seed campaign or undue medical debt, I would hope that some of you would take the time to really explore and see about this fantastic opportunity. But most of all, Westminster looks forward to the next 50 years of being a catalyst for change and peace in our community. So thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
I'm not of this century. And people who don't use these modern machines, but you have a post office address and want to send money. And will you say that slowly so I can write it down?
Let me grab my phone or I will catch you afterwards, but yes, you.
Afterwards, will be fine.
Yes, and they do accept checks happily. It just takes a little longer for them to get it because they do go through the post office, but thank you, yes.
Josie, you mentioned 17,500 was the amount that would at that point cover the current existing medical debt in Wayne and surrounding counties.
Correct.
How many people or families does that impact?
I don't have that information. We only have a total number of the amount of the debt. At this point, they don't drill down to that level. And of course, it depends on how the debt purchases were made and, and who are impacted by that. So, sorry. Yeah.
In terms of dollars, Wayne County had $270,000 of the debt. Holmes County had, Ashen County had $64,000 of debt. Holmes had $16,000 of debt. Medina had $2.2 million of the debt. And I believe some of went to about $2.8 million of the debt.
That was a couple months ago.
Yeah, that was when we bought it. Okay, and that's what we were trying to get off. the big thing is they're buying it at such a huge discount. Okay, that when she says, you know, $1,000, well, I mean, you know, you $1,000 get,
$10 will do it.
10 will do it, 1,000. That seems like a really big number, but when you start thinking in terms of the fact that, what we're talking about is, you know, $10,000 eliminates $1 million. That's a huge number.
Would you explain the mechanism of that? I don't understand that.
There have been several different companies out there that mostly have been spin-offs of the large credit requests. And they know exactly, they buy debt also because the credit unions are trying to get rid of that debt. And so they buy this debt, and they buy it at a huge discount because they've attempted several times to collect that debt and have not been successful. Okay. And so this company has been around, Undo, I think it's been around 14 years now. They have a 4-star rating with the Charity Navigator. If you look them up, and I hope you do, you'll see that to be very, very up and up. And they're buying this at huge discounts. And when they finally are able to connect with a person, you know, and clean that off their books, then that person gets a chance to get financially stable again. Because imagine, for instance, you know, you're budgeting for, you know, gas in your car, and your food on the table, whatever. Most people don't budget for an accident. Most people don't budget for insurance. You know, especially, certainly not life insurance, you know, but that's health insurance, et cetera, too, especially with that particular group.
Josie, appreciation of your time with us today. We would like to present you with the rendition. This is, yes, it's okay, good. With the rendition of the rotary wheel with a 4-way test on the back. This is made locally. Made locally. Okay, this is the very fun. But anyway, all right, we appreciate your time with us today. Thank you so much. All right, well, we appreciate everyone being here today. Thank you to all of our guests. Next week, we will have the city of Worcester with a 10-year comprehensive plan. So we hope to have you back and everyone to join us. I think that's all of our announcements for this week. And with that, we stand adjourned. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't illegal. I was like, I'm reading this. I'm like, oh, crap, I didn't do it. It's not working.